Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. Markets are slightly down today, and it's because of fears of both World War III and gas and oil prices. Remember, Brent crude is the international benchmark for gas and oil prices, and Brent crude is actually up 6.04 today, and it settled at 121.52. Now, that is still $9 away from maximum of 130. But however, we are getting close to the all-time high, which was set just a few weeks ago on gas. And obviously that is because Russia might be reducing its supply. It also can cut off its natural gas supply to Europe. Right now, Russia is having to sell some of its gas for rubles because of the sanctions. But the thing is, they're selling that gas really cheap for rubles, but there's not a replacement for that gas yet anywhere else. So fears of escalating tensions with Russia, the EU, and the US, because the EU is pushing for more and more that they sanction Russian oil altogether, although Germany is not going to agree to that because they need that oil. That is actually holding back the full kind of ban of Russian oil. But the fears of the EU ratcheting up its sanctions is pushing Brent even higher. And that does not bode well with the market. You can see the market today dipped about 400 points. And crypto wasn't really hurt that badly. It's kind of held pretty steady. But I do think any kind of real bull run is kind of out the window with things the way they actually are right now. The other thing right now is nuclear Armageddon that people are afraid of. And why are people afraid of that? Well, it's because today the US formally declared that Russia has committed various war crimes. Now remember, over the weekend, Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin were not very pleased with the United States because because Joe Biden called Putin a war criminal. They said it was unlike a person of that high ranking to call Putin that. However, the US did not back off. They doubled down on Biden's statements. Putin tried to bluff him out, and Joe Biden doubled down on what he actually said, and actually said, and the U.S. government formally said Russia actually has committed war crimes and maybe tried an international court otherwise. I'm pretty sure Russia does not like that either. So they may actually break off all communications with the United States. Now, it's not as bad as what Trump suggested we do. He actually made two suggestions, which are kind of funny, but would be completely disastrous at the same time. He said we should send our nuclear submarines to Russia's coast to threaten them. Russia, for those of you that don't know, doesn't really have much of a coast outside of the Arctic Ocean. They have one on the Bering Strait, but even though Russia's the biggest country in the world, 99% of their coast is on the Arctic Ocean. We're not sending our submarines to the North Pole. It's frozen, first of all. And that just wouldn't be a great idea. And he also actually even suggested that we paint some of our jets with Chinese colors and bomb the hell out of the Russians. I'm pretty sure China and Russia could actually figure that out. They were very interesting suggestions from the former president, but not very practical in all terms. But the U.S. actually doubling down on saying that Russia has committed war crimes is going to make Russia more unhappy. Poland's also sent peacekeeping troops. Poland's a part of NATO. They sent NATO peacekeeping troops into Ukraine, which could definitely stir up more confrontations. So the world is watching very, very carefully in case of World War III. So that's probably scaring the market as well. In terms of technical indicators, we are actually getting a little bit to the oversold level as well. You see the commodity channel index is over 100 now, which could actually mean it is a bit oversold. The stochastic is getting very, very close to 80, which means it could actually be oversold. The average directional index is still very, very low. There's not really much of a trend here. And the RSI is neutral. So you have two of the major indicators I look at, one being oversold already above 100 and one very close to oversold at 79. The momentum in the MACD does favor buy, but I actually look at these indicators more. So we're getting pretty close to the oversold level, so we could actually retrace a little bit over the next 2 or 3 days. The moving averages for the daily are on a buy, but because of the movement in oil and the threat of World War III and heightened escalations, we could dump down at least a little bit. I don't think we'll dump down very much, but we could dump down at least a little bit in the next few days. Plus, the futures do expire the day after tomorrow, so we will see. The 50 EMA is actually still way below the 200 EMA. And that's really not going to change anytime soon unless we gain about 6,000 points. And I really just don't see that happening. So a true bullish signal has not emerged. And we are actually a little bit on the oversold side here. So I do maybe see a small retrace happening this weekend. On the 1 week, the oscillators are very neutral. The 10 moving average is still buy, but everything else is sell all the way down to the 50. And because of the macroeconomic developments that are actually going on in the world, I am just not very bullish on the situation right now. So I would say I am a slight sell over the next week because of the macroeconomic developments and what's actually happening with gas and oil right now. On the 1 month, the 10 moving average is still on sell. I am waiting for that to switch to buy before I make any predicaments on a longer time scale. There might be a pump like later in May probably, but I am not very bullish for the rest of this month heading into early next month. The oscillators are neutral, so it shouldn't be too bad. But if the war actually escalates because Poland's sending peacekeeping troops to Ukraine, and also because the U.S. has ratcheted up its basically rhetoric against Russia, we could see some escalation. We could see some oil cuts. And that would actually be pretty bad for the overall market right now. So going into next week, I am kind of bearish. I don't think it'll be like kind of any kind of disastrous sell-off, but I am a little bearish going into next week. The pattern on the chart is actually pretty bullish though, regardless if you look at the 5 days or what. 5 days, I mean, if you really look at it, we are kind of like on the small uptrend right here. On the 1 month, if you really look at it, we are kind of on an uptrend, although like potential is still limited. On the 3 months, you can see we have evened out and we are still slanting on a slight uptrend, although potential once again is very limited. So if I really just look at the chart, I should be somewhat bearish, but because of the macroeconomic situations, if I really look at the chart, I should be somewhat bullish, sorry. But since the macroeconomic situations are there, I am actually a little bit bearish going forward. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.